There are many rumors floating around the internet about Brexit and some related topics. And about some of these rumors I want to talk in this video. I'm Mark, greetings from Germany and welcome to my channel. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, click the little bell and the notifications so you won't miss my new Brexit videos in the future. When you're traveling the internet, and watch out for things around Brexit, for articles, discussions and stuff like this, you always meet rumors. And I picked some of these rumors and want to talk about them today. Let's just start with an easy one. There's always over and over again the rumor that Spain would be the next country to leave the European Union. And I really can't see where the people get this impression from. Because the opinion polls in Spain say that 62% of the Spanish people like the EU. They do want to stay in the EU. So, if you know something I couldn't find, please put it in the comments and tell me why you perhaps think that Spain will leave the EU soon. There was a discussion about them leaving the euro because of the trouble they had, but they got out of the trouble with the help of the eurozone, and even that topic is not very popular in Spain anymore. The next one is about Britain will lower its tariffs just for the EU down to 0% when they are working on WTO rules. I know that some of my viewers are well informed and would never fall for that, but there are many people that still believe that could happen. And of course, this can't happen because the WTO rules mean there are rules still. And these rules say that if you don't already have a situation where you are very close to the end of negotiations with another country or with a bloc like the EU, for example, that is most probably coming to life very soon, you always have to give the same conditions to everyone in the world you don't have a deal with. And that would mean if the UK would lower its tariffs to 0% for the EU, they would have to do it for everybody else as well. So forget that one. And even the government is not talking about that anymore. They, for quite some time, put up a tariff scheme. The next one is really interesting, and I really don't know where the people get that from. I several times read that people are claiming that in case of a no-deal Brexit, which is now probable at the end of 2020, Ireland will have to leave the EU because of the Good Friday Agreement. No. The Good Friday Agreement can't force Ireland to leave the EU, and the Good Friday Agreement, if it violates EU regulations or EU law, is not even valid anymore at that point, because EU law breaks national law. That if you're in the Brexit discussions, you will probably know that. And so Ireland will remain a member of the EU, especially with the Irish people being so pro-EU. No one there will decide to leave the EU, even in case of a no-deal Brexit, and there's no contract that will force them to. Even the EU wouldn't be able to kick them out because it's not possible to kick a member out of the EU. The next one is the thing I heard from Boris Johnson and some of his people in the early days of the Brexit discussions where he was involved, that the UK would become a tax haven for companies, and so these companies will leave the EU to go to the UK. Sorry, but that doesn't make any sense at all, because companies that are leaving the EU to go to the UK have no access to the EU market anymore. So why should they leave their market only because they get a better tax scheme there? Well, what do you want to pay taxes from if you don't have income anymore? So that won't work either, because if you want to have trade in the EU, in the single market without tariffs and stuff, you have to be inside the EU. If these companies leave for the UK, they pay lower taxes, but probably will pay high tariffs if they want to bring products or services to the EU. And the next one is quite close to that, because that's some discussion I regularly see at the moment still, and that is that, especially regarding the City of London, that the British banks will take a lot of profit away from the banks within the EU because the government will deregulate the banking system. First of all, if we have a no deal at the end of the year, all services cannot easily be brought to the EU from the outside. And the second thing is, if the banks are deregulated in the UK, it's most probable that they will be shut out from the EU. They won't be able to do any services there. Another example there is always Singapore. Singapore has to do a lot of regulating in their banking sector compared to the time before that, and to have some limits on their banking sector regarding the EU, because otherwise the EU would never have made that deal. They don't have a free full access with deregulated banks to the EU, and they had to do, or let's say they had to pay quite a price in other areas to achieve that. So without a deal, there is no access for the British banks to the EU market. Another one is regular discussions about the UK-US trade deal. You have read about this in comments under my videos as well, I'm quite sure. And I heard several times now that in this summer there will be a big free trade deal between the UK and the US. First of all, to say it very neutral, in my political experience and looking at every other major free trade deals, even with the most willing parties involved, this takes longer than 6 months. But let's hypothetically say they would achieve that, to have the paper on the table in summer. Then still nothing would happen for several reasons. First of all, let's start with the Democrats in the US. For a free trade deal, the Congress has to allow that. And Donald Trump might do work with decrees again, but Congress would easily break that one, because the Democratic majority in the House of Representatives already stated they won't allow a free trade deal between the US and the UK until the Good Friday Agreement is secured for good. And at the moment we have a temporary solution for the Good Friday Agreement with the border in the Irish Sea and so on, what you all know very well about. But this is a temporary solution. It is not the final solution to keep the GFA secured. And until then, the Democrats won't allow this. And even with a presidential election, if Trump is re-elected, that won't change the majorities in the House of Representatives. So it won't change a bit even if Trump is re-elected. As long as the Democrats have the majority there, and the next elections there won't make so much of a difference in the House of Representatives. And so that's one roadblock for this deal. And the second one is, until the end of the transition period, the UK can negotiate every deal they want, but a deal like this, the UK-US trade deal, will, like every other, need the permission of the EU during the transition period to become active. And there is a reason why there is no trade deal between the EU and the US. And so because of those reasons, the EU will not give the permission to activate that deal this summer. If there are miracles and this deal would really be negotiated and it would pass Congress, which I doubt, but let's say it would, it will not become active before the 1st of January 2021. So it's absolutely impossible that this will happen this summer. Some might say, especially about the Democrats, it's not their business if we have negotiated stuff for the GFA. Well, it is their business that they have to give the permission for the free trade agreement. And if they have worries about that and don't want to give their permission, that is their business. And the last one, and there I must express myself as I never did on this channel before, the last rumor is the biggest bollocks I ever heard. And it's a really regular one that is written on the internet over and over again, and sorry, that's real nonsense, is that the EU wants to have an EU military to use it against their own people and as an invasion army into other countries that don't want to play after EU rules. I've never heard such utter nonsense in my life before. I am a former flight lieutenant myself of the German Air Force. I'm still a member of the reserve, and I do have some knowledge about the military there. And no one in a democracy would ever think about using their military against the own people. And no one in the real democracies nowadays is thinking about invading their neighbors. The EU is one of the major factors why we did not have wars among the members of the EU in the last 70 years. The sense of a European military is just a logic one. I know many people are against this, also inside Europe, but it does have advantages to do that. If 27 then countries buy their own equipment, develop their own equipment, they're not always compatible with each other in case they need to work with each other. The second thing is, it is far cheaper if there's one army where you buy everything together from, or let stuff be developed for that one army of the 27 countries, than every country doing that on their own. And another big one is, look at the security blocks on this planet. There's Russia, there's China, there's the United States. You can't be around in a globalized world like this, also in case of security, working on your own. So the EU has to work together also in the case of security and international relations to be a player that matters on this planet and not to invade the neighbors. And the other fact is, NATO is not as reliable anymore as it was during the time when it protected us all the time from a danger from the outside, from the Warsaw Pact, so the threat from the east. Many things have changed there. Have a look what happened with Erdogan. Against the will of every other NATO member, he's attacking in Syria, he's attacking allies we worked with against whatever you call them, Daesh or ISIS, and now they're attacking them. He's a NATO member and he's doing everything at the moment the rest of the NATO doesn't want. And listen to Trump, what he was saying about NATO before his last election, what he's regularly saying about NATO still. And then the last point, the person of Trump not being very reliable as a partner as well. So it makes sense to think about a European army, but one thing that is not part of this thinking definitely is to use that army against their own people or to invade the neighbors. Never. So this was, for a change, one ranting video. I don't do them too often, but that was necessary because I heard many of these things quite often now. If you want to have something more joyful, I put my next video in the end screen. Click on it and enjoy. I'll see you there. Viel Spaß.